You can buy her gifts, you can give her your time, you can move mountains for her, but none of it guarantees her loyalty because women are not loyal to what you do. They're loyal to something far deeper. And once you understand this truth, you'll stop wasting your energy on the wrong things and start building the one thing that makes her stay. You can spend your entire life doing things for a woman, buying her flowers, paying her bills, driving across town just to see her, rearranging your schedule to fit hers, showering her with attention, and still, one day, she may look at you and say, "I don't feel it anymore." That's the most confusing part for men. Because in their minds, loyalty should be tied to effort. If I gave her everything, how can she not see my value? But what most men don't understand is that women don't fall in love with deeds. They don't tie their hearts to the things you do. They tie their hearts to the energy you bring into their lives. A gift may make her smile for a day, but your energy is what decides whether she remembers that gift a week later or forgets it like it never happened. The dinner you bought her fades away, but the energy you brought to that dinner, the confidence, the way you carried yourself, the way you looked at her, the security you gave her through your presence, that's what stays with her. Women are highly intuitive, far more than men realize. They pick up on the subtlest shifts in your vibe, your tone, your body language. You can buy her an expensive handbag, but if the energy behind it is desperation, if it feels like you're buying her affection or trying to secure her loyalty, she won't attach to it. In fact, she might even resent it because it doesn't feel genuine. On the other hand, you can do something as small as holding her hand while walking in silence. And if the energy behind it is calm, steady, and confident, she will feel more connected to you in that one moment than in 1,000 grand gestures. It's not the act, it's the intention. It's not the deed. It's the energy flowing through that deed that determines its impact. This is why so many men end up heartbroken and confused saying, "I did everything for her." They don't realize that doing everything can actually be the very thing that kills attraction. When your actions are filled with neediness, when your deeds scream of insecurity, when everything you do is an attempt to hold her, she feels it. She feels that your giving is not pure, it's transactional, and no woman falls in love with a transaction. She may accept it, she may even benefit from it, but she won't tie her soul to it. A woman only ties her soul to energy that uplifts her, inspires her, excites her, and makes her feel alive. Think about the men women talk about years later, even when the relationship is long gone. It's rarely the man who did the most for them. It's the man who made them feel the most. It's the man whose presence was electric, whose silence carried power, whose laugh lit up a room, whose touch felt like certainty. Those men might not have been perfect, and they might not have been the most generous in terms of actions, but they carried energy that left a mark. That's what women are loyal to, not the checklist of what you did, but the memory of how you made them feel. Energy is magnetic. When you enter a room with calm authority, when you speak with conviction, when your body language radiates self-assurance, a woman absorbs that energy like a sponge. It makes her feel safe. It makes her feel drawn to you. It makes her want to lean in. But if your energy is nervous, if your actions are driven by fear of losing her, if you're overcompensating with deeds because deep down you don't believe you're enough, she absorbs that too. She feels the instability. She feels the pressure. And that's when she begins to disconnect, no matter how much you're doing for her. This is why the most powerful men don't rush to prove themselves with constant deeds. They understand that their energy speaks louder than any action. They don't try to win her with what they can buy or what they can do. They win her with the way they show up. They show up as men who know their worth. Men who don't need validation, men who lead without words. That energy is irresistible to a woman because it allows her to relax, to trust, to admire, and ultimately to connect on a level deeper than logic. A lot of men misunderstand loyalty. They think it is something they can secure with consistency of effort, with the things they provide, with the way they show up physically. They believe that if they are always there, always giving, always providing, then loyalty is guaranteed. But the truth is that loyalty has very little to do with what you do and everything to do with how you make her feel while you are doing it. A woman does not stay loyal to a man because of the amount of money he spends on her, or the gifts he gives, or even the hours he invests. She stays loyal because of the emotional world that man creates inside of her. If her heart feels secure in your presence, if she feels safe, seen, and understood, then she will hold on to that feeling with everything she has. And if she does not feel those things, no amount of giving or doing can ever replace that emptiness inside her. When a woman remembers a man, what comes to her mind first is not the list of all the things he did, but the way she felt in his company. Did she feel cherished? Did she feel valued? Did she feel like she could rest in his presence without pretending to be someone she is not? Those are the things that shape loyalty. The actions may be appreciated, but it is the feelings those actions generated that become imprinted on her heart. If a man takes her to the most expensive restaurant but spends the entire night distracted, distant, or critical, she will leave feeling empty. On the other hand, if a man takes her for a simple walk in the park but listens deeply, engages with sincerity, and makes her feel that she is the only person in the world in that moment, she will walk away with a memory she never forgets. The difference is not in the act, but in the feeling that was created. Loyalty is emotional, not transactional. This is why some women remain loyal to men who may not have provided them with wealth or luxury, but gave them something far more rare, the experience of being truly understood. She may meet other men who are more successful, who are more charming, who can do more for her materially, but if none of them can recreate the way she felt with that one man, her loyalty remains tied to him. It is not because of logic. It is not because he gave her the most. It is because her soul remembers what it felt like to be with him. That emotional connection is stronger than any material offering. And men who fail to understand this often fall into a cycle of overcompensation. They do more, give more, provide more, hoping to buy loyalty. But the truth is, loyalty is not for sale. It cannot be bought because it does not exist in the realm of things. It exists in the realm of feelings. If your presence does not make her feel anchored, if your words do not inspire her trust, if your energy does not give her peace, then she may enjoy what you do for her, but she will not give you her unwavering loyalty. She will take what you offer, but her heart will still search for what it truly craves. This is why you must pay attention not only to what you are doing for her, but to how your presence is affecting her emotionally. Are you building her trust, or are you making her doubt? Are you giving her peace, or are you creating chaos? Are you lifting her self-worth, or are you tearing it down? Because a woman's loyalty is not to the man who gives her the most. It is to the man who makes her feel the most alive, the most secure, the most deeply understood. And that is why feelings matter more than deeds, because when the heart feels safe, the loyalty that follows is unshakable. One of the biggest mistakes men make when dealing with women is thinking that loyalty comes from giving her everything she asks for. They imagine that if they never say no, if they always agree, if they bend over backwards to fulfill every desire, then she will recognize their devotion and reward it with loyalty. But what usually happens is the complete opposite. A woman may appreciate the effort at first, but over time, she loses respect for a man who has no standards. When you allow her to cross boundaries, when you let her take without ever requiring her to give, when you make it clear that you will tolerate anything just to keep her around, she does not see that as love. She sees it as weakness. And no woman stays loyal to weakness, no matter how much she benefits from it. A woman is loyal to a man who values himself enough to enforce standards. She may test those standards. She may push against them, but deep down she craves the security of knowing there are lines she cannot cross. Why? Because standards communicate strength. Standards say, I respect myself enough not to accept less than I deserve. And when a man respects himself, a woman naturally respects him more. It's not about being controlling or harsh. It's about holding yourself to principles and expecting reciprocity. If she sees that you demand effort, that you expect respect, and that you will walk away if those things are missing, she begins to understand that your love is valuable, not something she can take for granted. When a man has no standards, a woman feels like she is leading, like she is in charge of the relationship. At first, this might feel like freedom, but very quickly it turns into a burden. Because instinctively, women don't want to lead men in relationships. They want to follow a man who knows who he is and what he stands for. A man who sets no boundaries forces her to play both roles, and that strips away attraction over time. But when a man establishes standards, when he communicates clearly what he will accept and what he will not, he provides her with direction. That direction allows her to feel safe in following because she knows he has a backbone strong enough to carry both of them. It is also important to understand that standards create desire. If a man makes himself too available, if he says yes to everything, if he never challenges her, then she begins to lose interest. But when a man is selective with his time, when he doesn't allow constant disrespect, when he expects effort from her the same way she expects it from him, she begins to value him more. Standards create scarcity, and scarcity creates value. A man who doesn't let himself be treated poorly, a man who doesn't accept one-sided energy, becomes the kind of man she wants to hold on to, because she knows that if she loses him, she cannot easily replace him with someone of the same strength. Women respect strength, and loyalty is always tied to respect. If she respects you, she will stay. If she does not respect you, she will leave, even if you gave her the world. That's why standards matter more than sacrifice. It's not about giving her everything. It's about showing her that you won't lose yourself in the process of loving her, because the man who loses himself eventually loses her too. The man who stands firm in his principles, who shows her that he is not afraid to walk away rather than compromise his values, is the man who earns her deepest loyalty. One of the most common traps men fall into is believing that the more they please a woman, the more loyal she will be. They think that if they always agree with her, if they always put her first, if they eliminate every form of conflict by saying yes to everything, then she will appreciate their effort and stay by their side forever. But what men fail to see is that pleasing is not the same as leading. Pleasing is rooted in fear, the fear of losing her, the fear of being rejected, the fear of not being enough. And fear never builds loyalty. A woman might enjoy being pleased temporarily, but she does not respect a man who cannot lead. Without respect, loyalty cannot survive. Leadership in a relationship does not mean control, dominance, or silencing her voice. True leadership is about direction, vision, and strength. A man who knows where he is going, who has a purpose bigger than himself, naturally attracts loyalty because his presence provides stability. A woman feels safe when she knows the man she is with has a plan, when she senses that he is not wandering aimlessly, when she sees that he is grounded and decisive. In that safety, loyalty grows. She does not stay because he always agrees with her. She stays because he stands firm when it matters, because he is willing to take responsibility when life becomes heavy, because she knows she can lean on him without him collapsing. The man who pleases too much often loses himself in the process. He says yes to things he doesn't agree with. He sacrifices his own needs, goals, and values in order to keep her happy. He avoids conflict at all costs, thinking that peace equals loyalty. But what he doesn't realize is that a woman cannot be loyal to a man who betrays himself just to keep her. She may enjoy the benefits for a while, but deep down, she feels the weakness in him. She feels that he cannot protect her because he cannot even protect his own integrity. And once that respect is gone, the loyalty soon follows. On the other hand, a man who leads creates a completely different dynamic. He listens, but he is not swayed by every emotional storm. He takes her perspective into account, but he does not abandon his principles. He knows when to compromise and when to stand firm. He guides not by force, but by example, showing strength in his actions, clarity in his decisions, and steadiness in his presence. That type of leadership is magnetic because it provides a sense of order in a world that is often chaotic. A woman will stay loyal to a man who gives her that sense of certainty because it allows her to relax into her feminine nature and trust his direction. When a man leads instead of pleases, the relationship stops being one-sided. Pleasing creates imbalance because the man is always giving while the woman is always receiving. Leadership creates balance because the man provides structure while the woman provides support. She becomes loyal not out of obligation, but out of admiration. She sees him as someone worthy of following, someone whose energy commands her respect, someone she does not want to lose. Loyalty is never born out of constant yeses. It is born out of the strength to say no when necessary and to take charge when it matters most. If there is one thing that anchors a woman's loyalty more than love, more than attraction, and even more than provision, it is respect. Respect is not a luxury for a woman, it is a necessity. And the man who understands how deeply respect influences her heart will always stand out above the men who only focus on material gestures or superficial efforts. You can buy her flowers, take her on trips, spend lavishly, or shower her with compliments, but if you fail to protect her respect, none of it matters. Respect is the soil where loyalty takes root. Without it, the relationship becomes unstable, no matter how much else you are doing right. A woman can live without luxury, but she cannot stay loyal to a man who makes her feel small, disrespected, or humiliated. Protecting her respect does not just mean defending her when someone insults her directly. It also means protecting her dignity in the little moments, the ones most men overlook. It's in the way you speak about her when she isn't around. It's in how you handle disagreements. Do you belittle her or do you communicate like she matters? It's in the way you carry her name in public, the way you stand by her in difficult times, the way you make sure she never feels unsafe in your presence. These are the unspoken areas where respect is either strengthened or destroyed, and women are deeply sensitive to this. A single careless word that wounds her dignity can undo 10 acts of kindness because respect cuts deeper than gestures ever can. Men often think that loyalty is tied to how much they can provide, but women know that provision without respect feels empty. A man may put food on the table, but if he mocks her in front of others, if he dismisses her opinions, if he constantly puts her down, she will slowly disconnect from him no matter how much he provides. On the other hand, a man who may not be the richest, who may not have endless resources, but who fiercely protects her respect, will have her heart in ways money could never buy. Because what matters most to her is not how much you can give, but how much you allow her to keep her dignity intact in your presence. When you protect her respect, you create an environment where she feels safe to be vulnerable. She knows she can express herself without fear of ridicule. She knows she can make mistakes without being shamed. She knows she can trust you with her flaws, her insecurities, and her weaknesses because you will not use them against her. That type of protection builds a bond that is almost unbreakable. Loyalty thrives in spaces where respect is preserved because respect allows her to give herself fully without holding back. And when a woman gives herself fully, she does so with a loyalty that no temptation or distraction can easily shake. Think about it. The men women remember the most are not always the wealthiest or the most attractive, but the ones who made them feel respected in a world that often tries to strip women of their worth. The man who stood up for her when others mocked, the man who valued her voice when others silenced it, the man who carried her presence with pride instead of shame. These are the men who etch themselves into her heart. That memory of respect becomes the foundation of loyalty. It's not about being perfect. It's about being the kind of man who makes sure she never feels disrespected under his watch. There is a paradox about loyalty that most men never fully grasp. The more you chase it, the more it slips away. Men who are desperate for a woman's loyalty often exhaust themselves doing everything possible to earn it, constantly proving, constantly giving, constantly sacrificing their own needs in the hope that she will reward their devotion with faithfulness. But this approach rarely works because loyalty does not belong to the man who begs for it. Loyalty belongs to the man who doesn't need it. It belongs to the man who is whole within himself, who carries himself with confidence, who does not tie his self-worth to whether or not a woman stays. That kind of man is powerful because he communicates without words that he is not dependent on her validation. And paradoxically, that independence is what makes a woman give her loyalty freely. A man who doesn't need loyalty is not careless or cold. He is not indifferent to connection. Instead, he is secure enough to know that his life, his mission, and his identity do not rise and fall based on whether one woman remains or leaves. He values loyalty, yes, but he does not beg for it because he knows his worth exists regardless. That type of man is magnetic because he lives from abundance, not scarcity. Women can sense this energy instantly. A man who fears losing her radiates insecurity, but a man who can walk away if disrespected radiates strength, and strength is what anchors her loyalty. The irony is that when a man clings too tightly, when he demands reassurance at every step, when he suffocates her with need, he pushes her away. His obsession with securing loyalty makes her feel trapped instead of cherished. She begins to view him not as a leader, but as someone fragile, someone dependent on her approval to feel whole. That kind of pressure drains her desire to stay. On the other hand, when a man demonstrates that he can stand on his own, that he does not fear loss, that he can let go of anything that does not align with his values, she sees him as rare. She realizes that his loyalty is valuable because it is not desperate, and her instinct is to protect her place in his life. Loyalty thrives in the presence of freedom. When a woman knows a man does not need her, she feels that her choice to stay is authentic. She stays not because he trapped her with dependence, but because she truly desires to be there. That kind of loyalty is stronger because it is not born from fear of losing him. It is born from the genuine admiration of his independence. A man who doesn't need her loyalty earns it anyway, because his strength, his vision, and his self-respect demand it without words. The men who struggle the most with loyalty are usually the ones who don't realize they are giving away all their power. They tolerate disrespect because they are terrified of losing her. They bend their values because they can't imagine life without her. They cling to the relationship even when it is draining them because they have convinced themselves that their worth depends on her presence. But the truth is, every time they do that, they are teaching her that she can do anything and still be kept. And no woman stays loyal to a man who shows her that he is powerless without her. The man who earns loyalty is the one who shows her that he is willing to walk away rather than compromise his dignity. That willingness, that strength, that independence, it makes her loyalty not just a choice, but a privilege.